Hello everyone. Sorry I'm not in professional attire. I'm just kind of in a t-shirt and jeans, but it's a little after midnight and I'm hiding in the school conference room, borrowing the board. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about my project that I've been able to work on over the last several years, and it's the behavioral observations in dyslexics and its correlation with American Sign Language. There's a lot of things that we've learned about dyslexics, and the first thing I want to start off with is my own personal story. So I was diagnosed as a dyslexic when I was in 4th grade. And pretty much it was okay, cool. I had no idea what it meant, what it was, and then I know I met with a lady like once a week or so for a while, but it didn't change my education. I didn't learn anything specific. It's just all I knew that I was dyslexic, and I was like 8 years old. That's all I knew. So I've done some more research on it since, and as has the world. The Yale Dyslexia Research Center has done a tremendous amount of work. And one of the things they've really learned, and we're going to talk about today, is we're going to talk about how dyslexia, how it affects writing. It's a neurological thing, and we actually focus a lot on the neurology, and it's one of the things we're curious about, and that's why we're comparing it to sign language, because we want to know about the spelling, because sign language isn't spelled, it's all symbolic. So we have hearing, there's hearing over here, there's some symbols here. So there's a lot of things that correlate with dyslexia that we want to learn about. So we know that 1 out of 10 are dyslexic. Let me clear this. So we know that 1 out of 10 are dyslexic. That's one thing that we have learned through research. We know the narrow passageways are different in dyslexic and how they read and compared to normal people. But there are a lot of positives that come with dyslexia. One of the fun things that we get to do as dyslexics is if you can guess what this word means. It spells candy. Right after Halloween, I took the candy jar and I put it up on the fridge and I leaned around the corner, told my wife I put the KNDI on top of the fridge. And she was baffled. She's like, what? KNDI? What's that? So I said it again, you know, the KNDI, and I looked at the kids. Like, I'm not going to say the word, I'm going to spell it. And in my brain, K, because candy makes the K sound, so I spelled it KNDI, can-D. And that is very typical for a dyslexic to misspell words like that. And it's very common. So with this research project, we want to compare dyslexics to sign language because we know that spelling is rough for dyslexics, as well as writing skills. Often it's accompanied with ADHD. So we want to compare it to American Sign Language. Why? Because it's not spoken. It's not written. It uses different neural passageways. It requires attention. As I just mentioned, a lot of dyslexics have ADHD. They get distracted really easily, especially with words. Compare running. A normal person running, they have a nice little jog. If you run next to an Olympian, you're going to get destroyed because they are just freaks of nature and they're really fast. They're physically fit. There's a lot of attributes that go along with Olympic athletes when compared to a normal person. When a dyslexic person reads, it's so difficult for them. Any standard reader is as if they were an Olympic athlete for reading. So that's a way to compare it. So they get distracted really easily. But using American Sign Language, it requires full focus. It's also symbolic. It's all hand gestures. So this is an A. Here's an S. That's an L. It's not written. So here's the research questions that I have. What are the feelings and opinions of a dyslexic about American Sign Language when you compare that to other languages? We want to ask those questions after they've been taught or after they've had the experience with sign language, as well as how is focus affected in dyslexics when using sign language. And the last question, how would dyslexics compare American Sign Language to their native language? So these are kind of the things we want to focus with and or look at. So here's the plan. We basically want to take all the subjects and we want to ask them if they know sign language. We want them to identify a few words, kind of just test them to find out what their base knowledge is, because most people know a few words or a few signs. So we want to try to filter out those that are already fluent in sign language. Then we're going to provide like a 10-minute lecture on kind of the plan and why we're doing it and some of the research that's been done. And then we're going to teach them 30 words. We have a certified translator that is going to teach 30 words to them. And we're going to teach them the sign, the word, and then like visually say it. So this means yes, and then they would do it, and then even the thought of writing it down. But basically, this is yes, this is no, and they would participate. So it would be interactive. Then after that, we would take a break, and then there would just be an open question, open forum basically for them to talk, to relate their experience, how they felt, questions, basically trying to get feedback. And while we're getting feedback, we want to record the session. Anyone that is opposed to recording, we won't record it or we'll dictate and we'll handwrite the notes. The last thing that we want to do is hand out basically a questionnaire so that they can write down their feelings and more or less answer those research questions. So here's what I'm anticipating. As we mentioned before, some of the neural passageways that are different and the way that they learn it is different. So I'm anticipating higher participation, that they're going to be focused, that they're going to want to learn more, which is here. So I have a feeling they're going to want to learn more. They're going to realize how easy it is to learn this second language, as opposed to trying to learn a language that is written or spoken. I have a feeling they're going to remember the words, because dyslexics have a tendency to be very visual. The forward part of the brain is overactive in a dyslexic. So the gray matter in the front part, it's in the frontal cortex, is a lot more active. It's bigger. They have more neurons. So they're going to remember it easier because it is visual and it's textual. I have a feeling it's going to be easy for them to learn. They're going to focus on it. And they're going to enjoy it. I think this right here is really going to be the big one, that they're really going to enjoy it. It's not going to be painful like standard reading or writing, that it's something that they are going to fall in love with. And hopefully, if they do, that they will be able to use it in the future. They will be able to apply it to education. They can finally have that hope that they can learn a second language. I personally have tried learning Spanish, German. I think that's where I stopped. It was just those two. But I grew up in Southern California, and a lot of my friends spoke Spanish fluently. My mom speaks Spanish. My brother speaks Spanish. My wife speaks German. My entire life I've tried to pick up on it. And it's very, very, very difficult. Sign language, piece cake. So there's a hope there that they can learn a second language. They can apply it to their work and their employment. I worked at a restaurant. When people came in that were deaf, I was able to talk to them because I was able to learn a language that was easy for me. And then the last thing, we want to try to find patterns in dyslexics and how they learn so that we can learn more. Dyslexia has been studied pretty much since the 70s, so it's a really new topic. And we want to exploit it. We want to learn more. We want to be able to learn more that we can educate our children so that they can grow up with a positive experience, not like I did, where I was given the answers to the test in high school because they didn't know what to do with it. Like with dyslexia, they didn't know how to treat it or how to educate children so that they can work with it, because there's a lot of beautiful, wonderful things that come with it. And I was never taught that. I had to find it out for myself. So by finding these patterns, we can teach children so that we can have a smarter, stronger education for those growing up, so that our society can be better and stronger and more fulfilling. So this is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is my research study, and there it is. Behavioral observations in dyslexics and its correlation to American Sign Language. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck with your presentations, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.